Yeah, I think we've got to be good in transition offensively, for sure. I think we've got to be good on the offensive glass, without question. I think we've got to be strong defensively and create some offense off of our defense, which we haven't really been able to. Didn't get to do it all last year, and only in parts early on. That's something that I think to play to our strengths that will hopefully be good at as well.
Do you think there's a decent chance you guys wind up playing in the toughest division in college basketball?
Yeah, I mean, but we could argue that every year. I think, it's just it's the SEC, and the East has been terrific, and I think this year will be no exception. I don't know, and everything's on paper at this point, but there's not that Kentucky on paper that from a sheer talent standpoint is clearly head and shoulders above everybody else. But man, there's a lot of really good teams with a lot of talent. There's teams like Florida and Georgia that returned 2 or 3 really key guys that performed well, and so I don't think there's any question that it is. But again, as a competitor, I think that's what you want to be a part of, and I think that as we tell our guys all the time, if we can be good in our division and win at home and take care of business there and find a way to compete, then it means we can play with anybody in the country.
What are your expectations for Sam, one of the veteran guys, coming back? Can you lead the young guy?
Yeah, Neil, I don't think Sam's going to lead the young guys. That's not Sam's personality at all. Sam's a guy that comes and brings it every day. He's good about that and does well with that. He's a good teammate. I think he's well liked and he's good in the locker room. But he's not a rally the troops or leader kind of guy. I don't think that'll happen. But I do think for us to be our best, we need our best Sam Boljo every night. But quite honestly, I thought that was the case last year. And again, talking about having that one special guy versus the balance. We knew Devin could be terrific every night, and pretty much was. But we were really much better in more games and won games when Sam was really good. And again, I don't think that means a certain number or his numbers have to increase. But when he consistently performed and he was a presence in the game with his defense, with his finishing around the basket, I think it made us a better basketball team. I think that's definitely the case this year as well. And I would expect that since he's done that from sophomore to junior, or freshman to sophomore, sophomore to junior, that he would do a junior and senior as well.
Darrin, do you think maybe Malik takes a little bit of a leadership role just because of his experience playing the game? That he was here last year with you guys going through things, and now he's finally ready to go.
I think he can. I think when we talk about leadership, we're really talking about more leadership by committee, and more so in terms of bringing energy and emotion and effort every day. But there's no question that Malik can do that from the standpoint that he's not the fastest, and he's not the strongest, and he's not the tallest. But put some time on the clock and tell him there's going to be a winner and a loser. I wouldn't trade that cat for anybody. And so I think from that standpoint, Malik definitely does help us with that area. He just brings us a certain toughness and competitiveness that I think is going to provide its own kind of leadership, maybe without being that guy.
You mentioned that Bruce was the most physically ready. Where are some of those other guys, RJ and Andre, in terms of how far away are they from what you consider physically ready?
Well, I mean, they're all probably going to have to contribute in some way from a sheer numbers standpoint, and they're all ready to help. I just think from again, when I say that, Bruce is an elite athlete that physically is ready to do that. RJ and Brian Richardson, basketball-wise, are without question ready to contribute. I think physically they're going to continue to get better. Worries me when we have a guy that weighs less than me. That's not a good thing. But he's a heck of a lot better player than I was. That is a good thing, and Brian Richardson. So I think those two guys, basketball will help. I think, DeMontre physically, in terms of just sheer giftedness and athleticism, is ready to contribute right away. Not the physical specimen in terms of being able to handle workload, maybe that Bruce is. But I think that he can, for sure. Eric Smith is also physically, ready in terms of strength. He's strong, he's fast. Stamina needs to improve, but he's shown that. And Big Carlton has shown some good things. He's a guy that, you know, I think it's going to keep getting better and better. He's been a real pleasant surprise. And so I think all in their own way will contribute some and are ready. I just think, you know, from a sheer athleticism standpoint, Bruce is just ahead of them.
When you are losing a player like that, how important is it to find someone like Bruce who is ready, so to speak, especially at that position?
Huge. I mean, it's huge, and it's not just losing a player like Devin, it's losing a terrific point guard. I mean, at the end of the day, that is the most crucial position on the floor. And when you've got one that you know, athletically and basketball-wise, you know, that can handle, you know, what comes their way, it makes a big difference for your team, and it makes a big difference for you as your coach, because that's not something you're having to manufacture. When you've got a really good point guard, you know, how are we going to get the ball up the floor? I mean, yeah, and I've been there. I've been there. That's one thing you don't want to have to think about. That's kind of checked off the list for us right now, for example. And you know, both Bruce and Eric are freshmen. You know, I mean, they'll have to learn and have growing pains, as was mentioned earlier. But you know, from a talent standpoint, you know, they can do that. And so I think that makes a big difference.
You have to keep Coach Spurrier from sniffing around Bruce.
No. He looks like he's doing pretty good to me. I don't think he needs my help.
Ideally, how many guys would you like to move forward?
Yeah, you know, we don't have, that's a really good question. We don't have a number. I think sometimes when you play the way we would like to play, you know, people think, okay, I'm going to get 10 and I'm finding out a way to fill 10. I'm going to play as many guys as can help us win. You know, it could be 8, could be 9, could be 10 or 11. You know, obviously there's only so many minutes in the game, and you're probably going to keep your best players out there the majority of those minutes, especially in close games. But you know, I think you know, that number will be determined like a lot of other things with this team as we move forward. You know, and the more, the better, I think, for how we want to play, and just for getting more guys involved and having more weapons. But some of that will be determined in terms of how many and then how much they play when we do determine how many will be based on how they perform.
Despite the fact that you have 18 guys that can play, and you have all these different guys that can contribute, do you have a pretty good idea of what your starting lineup might be?
You know, we haven't practiced. You know, I really don't. We've had the fall workouts where we've been out there a couple hours a week here and there, done some skill stuff. But to say that, you know, these 5 guys have completely distinguished themselves, or you know, that okay, when you look at how they mix together, you know, that's the case. I know my last year at Western Kentucky, you know, we started the 5 best players, but we weren't quite as good until we subbed the kid in that hit that miracle shot in the tournament. And for whatever reason, we were just better when he was in the lineup to start games. And so, yeah, I'm nowhere near ready to say that.
How about some of the other returnees? I mean, guys like John Ray and King. Have you seen enough out of them from last season to right now to give you some confidence that they can be able to take those steps needed that you guys need to succeed?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's gotten better. You know, and I hope the one benchmark of our program, besides, like I said, kids graduating, is that, you know, individually they're going to improve. And they've definitely done that physically, especially. But, you know, you still have to go out and perform. And so from what I've seen to this point, I am confident in that. But, you know, I mean, the key is, you know, continuing to produce it, you know, not only in fall workouts, but then in the preseason practice and then in the games and doing it with consistency. And so, you know, we'll be waiting to see that from everybody. But, you know, everybody that's returning has done that. You know, I know Ramon, for example, you know, doesn't necessarily visibly to the naked eye look, you know, huge compared to what he was. Went from not even being able to bench like 185 to benching 250. You know, so we've had vast improvements physically and skill-wise with all those guys. But, you know, we got to go out and do it.
How do you feel about changing the rebound? I know y'all were in the lower third of rebounding margin last year. What are things you do as a coach? Do you change your scheme defensively? Do you focus more on blocking out, maybe less going for blocks? How do you change things to improve the rebounding margin?
Well, I think it's got to be a focus for us. I think we've got to get better at it. You know, I think we've probably got to be a better block out team than we've been in the past. Just because even with our athleticism, you know, I don't know that we have a bunch of guys that are just going to get rebounds. And so that's something that, you know, again, collectively as a team, you know, we're going to have to work at and be committed to do better than we did.
I know you have a bunch of games between now and then, but any sense of anticipation going back to what's happening?
Any what?
Any sense of anticipation going back to what's happening?
Oh, no. No, I mean, I'm sure it'll be neat when we get there, but, you know, we're getting ready for practice tomorrow.
I believe
they gonna boo it and cheer?
I don't know. I hope they don't do.